to the Warzone Amateur Hour podcast.
Welcome back to the Warzone Amateur Hour podcast. This is episode number 75. Only 25 away from 100. Who would have thought when we started out we would come this far? What a time to be alive in the Warzone. What a time to be part of the Warzone Amateur Hour community. We got monsters, King Kong, Godzilla on the horizon. We got a state of balance, and we got a brand new season of Warzone here, Vanguard to be specific. But before we dive into so very much, I must turn to the 10-inch cowboy and ask the cowboy, how was your week in the Warzone?
Well, thank you for that lively introduction once again. Crazy week in the Warzone. This is a season update week, so there's a lot of shit going on. We got new weapons, we got monsters on the horizon, as you said. Huge changes to like the weapons in general, like a total rebalancing of like everything, like snipers, like there's no more snipers. Basically, you got to change. The car's gone now, so I'm totally fucked and lost. It's been a crazy week. I don't know, we have a lot to talk about. I have a feeling this is going to be a super long episode, but some exciting changes, but some changes that frankly suck. I'm not gonna lie. And I got some of my own issues right now. I got a controller issue. I believe I mentioned this in the past. My controller was acting funky, and then it like fixed itself, and then it was great. And I've had months of no issues, and then all of a sudden the last few days it's unplayable. So I got to get a new controller. I'm technically like out of commission right now, which is horribly sad, but I'm working on that. So working on it. Crazy week. How was your week in the Warzone?
Well, yeah, let me just say, I got a first-hand glimpse. The Cowboy is dealing with the dreaded stick drift, which is actually a problem, it seemed, plaguing the early PS5 controllers. From what I've seen, though, they've fixed that. They've switched to like a new part, and there's a way that you can actually check when your new controller arrives based on like the serial number to see if one is these new lots. So I know I've sent you a link to where to fucking get a controller. I know you can fucking afford one.
Well, hey, check it out. It fixed itself and it all was good, so I didn't have to order one, but now it's back, and now I do definitely have to order a new one. There's no question. So I will be purchasing that this week. Excellent. Speaking of which, sign up for our Patreon and check out all the content that we're releasing exclusively on our Patreon channel.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding.
Unrelated news. Thank you to the Patreon supporters for supporting, I'm sure, this purchase in some way. But that said, it's good to have a second controller, in the rotation, especially, one dies. You got to have one on deck there. But either way, dealing with the technical difficulties, the Cowboy, the Tronster, getting a bit busy this week. Quite a time, I guess. I got it right off the top of the agenda before we dive into Season 3. Had to make a note. Pretty monumental time. We have a mutual friend here, the Cowboy and the Tronster, who really, I think his only foray into online first-person shooters was way back in Halo 3. Had a brief stint there when we were all roommates. But had promised once he got a PS5 this past Christmas that he was going to dip his toes into the waters of the Warzone. And we said, boy, if you're an amateur, do we know what you need? And he had been holding off, but finally this past weekend, the night prior to recording, he finally got into the game. His moniker is Mud Pusher. So we were alongside him. I was for his very first round, and you were for his second round. And before I get to like the big reveal, but I'm going to let you kind of give your take on how this experience was playing with a first timer.
Yeah, I just to be totally transparent, I had a few cocktails last night. So by the time that I hopped on the PlayStation, I was feeling loose. I can't remember how many games we played, to be honest. I think we only played a couple of them. But to be honest, he was kind of a natural at it. He kind of got it right off the bat. If you think about dropping in with someone that's never played this game with the current, floor level, like how good people are, even at like the bottom levels of this game, it could be a fucking nightmare and instantly turn somebody off. But I mean, you had said in his first game, he immediately pistoled somebody and killed somebody right off the bat, which is way better than I ever did when I first started. I was scared, man. I was scared. I was not being aggressive and using that pistol like it sounds like he did. So I'll let you take the next step in which what happened for our new Warzone friend.
Well, before he even hopped in, like, you don't realize how much goes into playing this game, because I realized I had to say, hey, pause it, go to your settings. You know, I had to guide him through the 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 different settings you have to change, like apply all plates at once, fucking contextual tap this, that, and the other. He's still on. I didn't even want to give him bumper and jumper yet, because I'm just like one thing at a time. But yeah, we drop in. He's playing with no fear. He's getting his ass kicked. He does get a kill in the opening round. We actually did all right. I think it was a trios. And then the Cowboy hops on for a quad. His first ever quad. His second ever game. And your boy Tron had to show out. Led the charge on the Rebirth Island. We were all together, I think, towards the final circle above Control Center. As the circle pushed out, thankfully, we had the high ground. It was actually me and Mud Pusher on this like high ground, firing down on this guy. I've never been more proud of him in my life. He was having a blast shooting this bastard. But then he got sniped. He was down. You were down. I was the last alive. It was a 1v1, and you know I clutched it out, and I dropped 8 kills, and I got that man in his second ever game, his first ever victory. That's right.
We got it. Yes. I wouldn't take all the credit there. But yes, we did a great job, and you did finish the game out. It was really crazy. I mean, I think I hopped off after that. I think I was like, all right, I'm done. He won. We got him a win. I'm out. But it was great. Yeah. Must be nice to have friends like us that just take you into this incredibly complex, difficult game and just hold your hand as an amateur and get you victories. I'm sure that his perspective on how the game is played is forever skewed because he's got such great friends like us.
I mean, yeah, spoiled. Like, I think you had said, like, he doesn't really understand what he just experienced. Like, and again, it was on Rebirth. This was not a Caldera win. But I know for us, starting out, like, working for those wins, that was a monumental thing. He ended up getting a second win later on in the session. I think his career now winning percentage is probably above ours because he's got such a small sample size. But, started to get into it, and that was what was even more crazy. I'm like, hey, start building your loadout. He's like, I can't even build a fucking loadout. It says I got to get to level 4. So
that's amateurism at its finest.
But, you know, put in like a 3-hour stint in his first go. So salute to Mud Pusher. Salute to the first-time players out there that all the way down here in Season 3 of Vanguard are getting their feet wet for the first time. The water, as we've said, it's real nice. So hop in. We'll throw you a fucking life, you know, preserver. We'll help wade your ass through the deep waters and get you to the island where they celebrate that victory.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going with that, but I think I followed you the whole time. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well,
right
yeah,
on.
I believe we're going to be able to hopefully record that. I know it was streamed. Hopefully going to download and maybe get that up on our Patreon. Speaking of, we had uploaded a bunch of victories of the week for our Patreon supporters out there. So if you're not one of them, that's more of a reason too. If you are, check them out. Those are for you to feast upon. We had a bunch of videos on our YouTube. So if you're not subscribing or checking that out, please do. But that said, let's just dive into it here. Season 3 dropped this week, and with it, we had seen kind of the teases. We talked so much about Godzilla and King Kong, but that's still not even till May 11th. But so much was changed in these patch notes. I mean, just to get off, like, we're going to go right off the rip here. High-level changes they made are, first off, for the Rebirth runners like ourselves, we all know the infamous Diamatti drops, where you drop in with a fucking Diamatti, one of the best pistols in the game. Well, though, that is no longer a thing that happens. How do you feel about them taking the Diamatti drops out?
I have grown to like the Diamatti drops. Is that terrible of me? I do well with the Diamatti because it's such a, you know, it's 1, 2, 3, and then like you can down somebody. I mean, of course it can be frustrating, especially if you're dropping somewhere that's insanely hot. But honestly, I don't really care. I mean, I feel like you're going to be happy about it, but I kind of like the Diamante drops.
It depends, I think, where you drop. And I think as you redeploy, it becomes better. Like at the beginning, it kind of sucks, but when you redeploy with a Diamante, you're in a much better situation than in most instances. But I think get it out of there. Like for a starting gun, it's too powerful. They also nerfed it, which we'll talk about the whole weapon balancing that happened. So the Diamante isn't even as strong as it was. But yeah, so that was one of the changes they decided to make right off the rip. I'm supportive of that. They also added what they're calling high-value loot zones, which they say these zones are represented on the TAC map by a very appropriate $sign and will provide the best looting opportunities. These zones will be complemented by rebirth supply boxes that will provide recurring loot opportunities.
Sounds great. Where are these zones? How do we find this out?
I think these high-value loot zones are on Caldera, but the way they're describing it is with Season 1, we introduced public events like cash drops during infill to draw players toward new loot locations. We have been happy with the results of these, quote, honeypot opportunities, but we want to take it a step further, starting with Operation Monarch. Okay, so they're not yet in the game. We will be introducing high-value loot zones to provide new, fruitful opportunities for players willing to take the risk.
That's cool. I mean, I think that I'm curious to see where they put them. You know, I mean, that's going to like dictate, I feel like, where everyone's dropping. Like if they throw them on peak, they put them in like factory, airfield. Like, of course, they're going to just, I mean, if they make peak one of these, it's going to be an absolute shit show up there. So I'm curious if they're going to put them in spots that are already kind of like high desirable drop areas, or if they're going to put them out in the middle of fucking nowhere, like ruins or like, you know, resort or like little weird pockets, you know what I mean? Just maybe spread it out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that brings us into our next segment, which is these new POIs on Caldera, which we checked out. I'm guessing they're going to put them in areas they want to drive players to. Maybe they'll be random, though. But yeah, what were your thoughts on these new POIs? I know we dropped Dig Site. We checked out, I don't even remember the other ones.
I like Dig Site. I have a vivid memory of Dig Site. We dropped Peak too, just to see the new Peak situation. I'm pretty sure we were wiped immediately. But yeah, I liked Dig Site a lot. The listeners know I'm a big monster guy. So like having gigantic extinct bones coming out of the ground is something I'm all about. And I do like the Dig Site area. Yeah, I had a great time there. The only problem was when we dropped there, there was no damn loot at all. I could not find a weapon. We got pushed by another team. I had to put my tail between my legs and run away because I just couldn't face the battle with the 1911 handgun that I had. So cool design, architecturally into it. Loot, dog shit, need to work on that. But I was impressed. I mean, we didn't really get a chance to look around Peak because I don't even think my legs hit the ground before I was killed. I was killed in the air and then hit the ground, immediately dead, gulag, new gulag, killed immediately, worst round of my life, questioned why I played the game. It was one of those situations. So, but what about you? What did you think of Dig Site?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was cool. Felt pretty vulnerable. Like they said you could take, refuge behind that big skeleton, and then there's that big like earth moving machine, but we just kind of got shit on while you were there. Like you touched on, I think we played 3-4 rounds of Caldera to start, and the gun situation off the drop was fucking horrendous. Like I don't know if that was a glitch and they've patched it, but it seemed like impossible to find any sort of viable weapon. And yeah, so if you're dropping the new POIs, that's going to put you at a bit of a disadvantage, but they're taking time. They're improving the map. I do like the new Peak a lot. I thought that was pretty rad. Definitely some prison situation type of vibes there, and hot as hell. So, more power to them. But otherwise, new PRs it's like a thumbs up. That's about it.
Yeah, I give it a thumbs up. I wasn't like freaking out about it, but I'd give it a thumbs up.
Well, in terms of, quality of life improvements, we've already seen them tweaking the gas masks, since the beginning of time. Like there've been incremental changes. Well, once again, they made another gas mask change. And this one I'm sure is welcomed by us leg breakers. And that is that the gas mask will no longer interrupt a falling player, thus allowing them to still be able to pull their parachute when falling to preserve their life. They won't play the animation when the player is in ADS and affected by the gas from Nebula 5 rounds. And they said the gas mask remains a continued focus for our quality of life efforts. It plays an important role both in gameplay and the visceral Call of Duty feeling. But we felt that we had seen too many videos of players jumping from high heights into the gas and the game incorrectly prioritizing the gas mask animation over the parachute. And we all know how that scenario ends.
Oh, yes, we do. In pure frustration and anger and sometimes broken controllers. Well, it's good to see that they're, doing this. I'm trying to imagine this situation. So like you're on peak, say you're really high and the circle pulls and then you jump through into the gas or something. It automatically puts a gas mask on and then you're not able to pull your parachute. Is that the situation they're describing? Because that seems like something that would happen, but it kind of seems niche. But I guess if
you've never had this happen. This was a Verdansk classic for me. Jumping off a roof just as the circle's closing in, and you just touch the gas as you're off the roof, and so instead of pulling he fucking pulls out the mask, you fall to your death. You're fucking livid.
Yes, I've had that happen. Yes, I do know exactly what you're talking about. And it did seem to happen on Verdansk a lot more. Maybe it's because they've made so many improvements with the gas mask, and this was like the early version of the shitty version,
Maybe. I also think the nature of rooftop was a big thing, especially later in games, whereas this is so much traversing on foot from building to building. Although, like you said, floating downhill. And they did make improvements to being able to pull your chute earlier and all that. But either way, good quality of life improvement. Beyond that, they've made some changes to contracts, specifically the most wanted contract above all. So they gave a timer reduction via the following, which I think this is pretty cool. So now if you have a most wanted contract going and you eliminate an opponent, it's going to reduce your timer by 20 seconds.
Oh,
if you open a supply box, it'll reduce it by 5 seconds. And they said they want this contract something that both promotes and rewards aggressive play.
I love this concept. I think this is fantastic because what happens, obviously, the king hops in a helicopter and spends the 2.5 or whatever minutes just doing circles, and it's stupid and it's slow and it's boring. At least this way, it promotes opening supply boxes. If you hit 5 or 7 supply boxes, all of a sudden you're bringing that time down. I think this is a great idea. I'm assuming you're also on board with this.
100%, but that's not all. They said players can no longer use the TAC map to ping an enemy most wanted target directly. I know you would do that, you'd be dead, and you'd just be pinging these fucking most wanteds, and they'd be floating around the map for your buddies to see willy-nilly. They said, we felt this method was unfairly punishing and provided too great of a degree of accuracy that was almost impossible to be countered by the target. The refresh rate of the most wanted target on the TAC map has also, though, been increased to counterbalance the removal of the above ping. So now that means, if they're in a car moving, like you remember the blip would slowly update. Now it's going to refresh a bit more frequently. They said this brings balance and still allow tracking of the approximate location of the target. They reviewed all the data for the most wanted contract, and they felt that improvements needed to be made to increase its engagement and success rate while still retaining the all-important risk/reward that it offers.
I think this is a great idea. I feel like the King contract was kind of waiting for an update like this. It was a little too simple. You just get the thing and then you have to wait. I like this a lot. I think it kind of for all the reasons we just discussed. Yeah, it just seems like better quality of life. It just seems great. I'm into it.
Yeah, I'm into it as well. And again, it's it shows they're not staying complacent here, waiting for things to break. It's okay, we fixed these areas of the game. What else can we fucking, do? They're looking at data and shit. I don't know who's in charge of that, but salute to that guy or team or girl. So clearly they've made some improvements. In addition, that's not the only contract they tweaked. The bounty also kind of had a similar adjustment where the refresh rate on the TAC map of that little yellow circle that indicates where your bounty is, that speed of the refresh rate has been increased as well. They said this is especially noticeable when a target is in a vehicle.
Yes.
To better inform players that a vehicle chase may be required.
That was the exact example I was thinking about. It's like, whenever the bounty's up and you're like, oh, are they moving? Are they in a vehicle? You have to wait for the goddamn tac mac to refresh. And you're like, oh, I don't know. Then, oh, they're moving fast. Okay. At least if it's quicker, it's like immediate. I'm all about that. That's great. And that's how it should be.
Yeah, it's like before you'd be like, oh, I think they're moving away. And they'd be like, and they're fucking gone. They're in a helicopter and now they're
halfway around, gone
away.
from, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's cool.
And then, yeah, again, solid. And then a minor change for the deployable buy stations. They said when a player pings a deployable buy station, there's now a dedicated audio/narration to better inform squad mates of the player's intentions.
The hell does that mean? It says it like tells them what he bought?
I think it's like use a fucking custom buy station, mate, instead of like go to the regular buy.
Oh, okay. Seems unnecessary.
I think I was mixing accents there too, but yeah, so I guess it's something unique to the deployable buy stations. It's telling the players. I haven't even noticed that. I don't really pay attention to the guys' call-outs that much other than like enemy redeploying. But speaking of buy station changes, the big meaty change thus far that we've covered here, I would say is this next one, which certainly has been impacting me in not a great way. And that's that buy stations no longer require confirmation when making a purchase. So, your classic, you select, let's say your plates, you hit select, and you always, at least me, it's like built into you to hit that second one to confirm the purchase. That is no longer the case. It is a, fucking Amazon one-click buy situation here. That the money is gone. You hit the wrong thing, you're fucked. And they said the confirmation box when making a buy station purchase had good intentions, but we felt that the muscle memory had become so ingrained in players to double tap twice in succession. This was causing unnecessary friction in a potentially hostile combat situation versus the unlikelihood of mistakes being made. We plan to make additional refinements to the buy station experience during the season.
I don't know how I feel about this. I don't feel like this was ever a real issue. It sounds like they just wanted to take that extra step out because it could ultimately cost you time and you'd get killed for like that extra split second. You have to hit a second X or whatever. You have to confirm your purchase. I guess this is fine. I don't think I had a lot of situations in which I was like buying something and like, oh shit, I clicked the wrong thing. Let me go back. I'm glad I had that moment to think about it instead of hitting X twice. So this seems small and silly, but I guess, what would be really nice is if they fix the goddamn UI functionality when you try to get a loadout and you can't, if they said they fixed it and they didn't fix it, that's what I want fixed with the buy situation.
Well, yeah, 2 notes. First off, on these patch, they said they fixed it again. They said they fixed an issue causing the buy station UI selections to reset to the top. But
Bullshit.
They didn't fucking fix it. It's still broken. Confounding that is this new change. They talk about muscle memory. Oh, is that fucking ingrained? We're going to have a win of the week here uploaded. Your boy Tron got a solo's rebirth victory. And you'll notice there's times I'm at the buy, I make a purchase, and then immediately inject a fucking stim shot into my heart. That's because I'm so used to going ba-ba-ba-ba-ba on the fucking X button. So I'm having to break that muscle memory. Again, I think this is a good change, but it's going to take some getting used to.
Yeah, it'd be funny if you were running gas grenades and you were just gassing yourself out all the time.
Yeah, get ready to lose a lot. If you're doing the bumper jumper tactical, I think if you're in the normal one, you're on PC or whatever, you'll be less affected. But this one's certainly taking some time to fucking get. Again, yeah, the UI situation's still broken, which is now even more stressful buying because you don't have, the are you sure step. It's like you hit the wrong thing and that money's gone. So if you've noticed that's going on out there, that is why they've gotten rid of the confirmation. In addition, they made redeploy positioning improvements. They said players who redeploy via the gulag or are brought back will now spawn in close proximity to their squad or loadout. I felt like that was always the case, although there were random times you'd get put out like on the other side of the map randomly.
Yeah. I got nothing to say about that.
Okay, and then cosmetically speaking, you might notice on Caldera there's cloudier weather, and I know they alluded to the storm coming.
Yeah, definitely changed the vibe. It was a nice sunny, shirts off. Let's put some sunscreen on, maybe grab a Mai Tai, and then we'll kill some people. There's a storm of brewing on the horizon, very similar to when that completely insane and out of storyline old zombie ship showed up at Verdansk. Kind of the same vibes where the clouds are on the horizon and something's coming, but fortunately we don't have zombies this time. We got something better.
Yeah, we got some ominous monsters making their way to the island. That date is approaching, but still not yet here. But in addition to islands, the Rebirth Island had the spawn protection system, they said, made some improvements. So they removed the damage reduction scaling system that was based on ground distance. So when you would redeploy on Rebirth, you probably noticed you had spawn protection, where if you were shot in the sky, it wouldn't hurt you. Apparently that was scaled based on how high off. So as you got lower to the ground, you would take more damage. They've now fixed that. And they said the system now becomes disabled if a player is near the ground or an opponent. Players who have the shield icon will only take a flat 25% of the damage received. Spawn protection will no longer reduce gas damage. And they said while spawn protection plays an important role in any multi-life game mode, which is Resurgence, we felt it needed some extra refinements to make sure it cannot be exploited by players. We will continue to monitor player behavior in this area to make further changes throughout the season if required.
When they speak of how do you exploit this? Maybe I'm not as sophisticated of enough player, but my thought is, and if there's something else, please correct me. You're falling in, you're respawning, and then you see someone like on a roof or somebody exposed, like if they're on prison roof or chem or bio or whatever. And you're falling in, and let's just say you had a Diamante. I know those aren't in the game anymore, but you had a Diamante. You cut your shoot, get a couple shots off, pull your shoot again, then cut it. So is that what they're saying? Like you can use it to your advantage because you have more damage, even though is that what they're, or is there? Am I missing something here?
I don't know if for sure, but if I had to guess, I think the real way you exploit this is, especially later in the game, especially for Resurgence, is you redeploy, you immediately hit your shoot, and you just float and wait there like a little fucking butterfly floating unharmed through the sky, because they can't really, other than snipers, they can't do anything to you there. So I think it's really just a matter of slow playing the game. They want to make that less of a means of remaining in the game. But again, I'm not sure for real. I didn't even know there was all these kind of systems in place where it was scaled based on how far you were. But it's interesting. I haven't noticed a big change on that. If you're in the fucking sky, I'm going to shoot you either way, even if it shows me that stupid shield, because I want you to feel something up there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the goal here, right, if we're thinking about best case scenario, is that you don't have people with the ability to drop on top of you and beat you down when you're fully kitted out with your loadout. That just should never happen. It's so unrealistic. 2 or 3 hits with a pistol butt versus my 15 shots with a MAC-10, and I'm the one that's gonna fucking die here. Everyone's been there, and everyone knows how frustrating it is, and that's what I'm hoping they're trying to fix with this.
Well, let's see. I feel like that's becoming less of a problem, but it's certainly, you see them floating at you, you unload a clip, and then while you're reloading, they decide to drop in, and they have the spawn protection, and now you're screwed. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, but you are right. It has been a little less lately. I haven't had that frustration in bad situations lately. So maybe the micro changes that they're making are having an impact. Yeah, well, I don't know. But that said, weapon trade stations also had an adjustment. They reduced, which I think you were the one who had it happen. I didn't even realize it was a thing, is you can get a fucking specialist token out of those weapon trade stations. Well, they reduced the drop rate of that.
Yeah, that actually was Friends of the Pod, Poland Sparks got those, but they had told me about it, and then I tried it, did not get the specialist token, missed out on that. But yeah, there was a moment in time where you would trade in a gold blueprint weapon, and it would drop a specialist token. which is a legit trade, especially if you got some bullshit golden handgun or shotgun. You know what I mean? Like, trade that in, get a specialist perk. Why not?
Wow, yeah. Had I known that, I would have been fishing for those gold blueprints. But so they said, we've enjoyed the engagement players have been having with the weapons trade stations and the specialist token reward, but we felt it's slightly on the high side, so we've made a reduction. The station will now look for empty space to drop your rewards as well, so it's less cluttered on the ground. They said we found it a bit annoying to pick up loot after you traded your weapons, so we've polished this moment. The system will now always look for an empty space when dropping your rewards.
Yeah, I traded in a gold trying to get the specialist token, didn't get the specialist token, and then what the loot was that had come out was like above head high. It was like this weird glitch where it didn't fall on the ground. It landed at like 10 feet above. So I had to jump up to grab shit, and it was a total nightmare. So they still see, and that was last night, I think. So I think they got to still dial in a few of these, the little details here, but it seems like the intentions are good.
Yeah, maybe the way it found empty space was a little inconvenient there. I've been using those stations less, but still I like having them around. But, you know, this has really been the appetizer. Obviously, with Season 3, like, these aren't the big changes. You know, we got to save that because there's so much earth-shattering news to come. Thanks for sticking with us. But before we dive into that, we just have to give a word from our sponsors and let you all know that support for the Warzone Amateur Hour is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million men or 8 million balls worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, our listeners, and that's right, 20% off and free worldwide shipping by using the code WAH at manscaped.com. I know you gave us a very in-depth report of your Manscaped experience. How has the Manscaped lifestyle been working for you there on the ranch?
Oh, baby. Well, let me just be very clear here. I usually on the ranch, when I'm working in my blue jeans, I'm going commando. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have time on the ranch to throw on underwear, but the fine folks at Manscaped thankfully sent us in the package they sent you and I. No pun intended. They sent these boxers. Manscaped make boxers. I didn't even know that. These fucking boxers are like the best, most comfortable boxers I've ever worn in my life. I've told a few of our friends to order some of them because I love them so much. There's like a velvet, like, okay, you know, where your fucking balls sit, there is this great velvet like pouch, and it's like a velvet ball pouch, and it fucking feels great. So, you know, revolutionizing the ranch. I got them for all the ranch hands, even some of the girls, and it's gonna be great. Cowgirl loves it. What else is there to say? Like, be an adult here. Shave your balls, make them smell good, and get some boxers, baby.
Wow, yes, indeed. And I know certainly the Lawnmower 4.0 is what they like to say, the future of grooming, and perhaps the greatest ball trimmer ever. It's the 4th generation trimmer, and it features cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. Thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology, the Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof, and it has a 400K LED spotlight for you to make those precise shaves.
Yeah, also, aside from the lawnmower, we also got the weed whacker, which is like the nose hair trimmer, and that is something I didn't realize I needed until I started using it. You know, we're getting older here. Hair's fucking showing up in places I didn't have when I was, you know, a younger ranch hand. So yeah, I'm also like really into that as well. It's been a nice addition to the repertoire.
So yes, thank you to Manscaped. Thank you to our listeners who already use the code WAH. If you're out there, check it out. 20% off and free shipping with the code WAH at Manscaped. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using the code WAH. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Use the code, people.
All right, well, let's move on to the big changes here that came with Season 3. This next one kind of came out of left field, but I gotta say, I think it's pretty cool. And that is that perks, yes indeed, perks, as in Ghost, as in Tempered, as in Cold-Blooded. They previously would only be equipped and acquired by a loadout, and that was that. Well, now they have introduced perks that can be acquired as ground loot. And they said each season Raven Software makes an update to the item pool, changing what operators can find in supply boxes or on the ground around Caldera. One of the biggest additions this season is the new lootable item type perks. As of this update, the following perk can be found as legendary rarity loot: Battle Hardened, Engineer, High Alert, Restock, Tempered, Quick Fix, Scavenger, Point Man, only for plunder.
So they are saying that this has been rolled out in this update. I haven't seen any of these. Have you?
They're on Caldera. Yeah, I have. I acquired, we were playing, and I think everyone on our team at one point got High Alert. We were able to find them in crates, and they look kind of like a C4 almost, but they're red when you come up to them. So I kind of grabbed one unknowingly, and then I was like, oh shit, I just got a perk.
That's cool. I like this. Yeah, High Alert probably being one of the more valuable perks you'd find in a crate. That's a game-changing situation right there. But I think this is totally cool. I love that they're playing with this and trying it. I mean, this also is kind of fun as you start to think about how this affects your loadout builds. Like if you have a high proclivity in grabbing High Alert out of crates, why not run Ghost? If you think you're going to get that, or if you have that already, High Alert. Like my question is actually, when you do grab High Alert perk and then you go to get a loadout, do you continue to keep High Alert, or does it defer back to the perk slot that's associated with your loadout?
I'm certain almost that it adds on, and they said lootable perks are additive to loadout perks. So you can, as you said, be strategic about it. Let's say you pick up Tempered, and you wanted to get Tempered as your second loadout. Instead, maybe you got a Ghost loadout. You go with that.
100%. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I like the depth and the thought and the forethought that's needed. Strategy.
And what they said here, which I'm a little confused about, it happens for Tron.
Let me clarify it for you. Read it to me. I'll tell you what they mean.
Thank you. It says a player can equip all 8 perks at once if found. So that's the lootable perks we read off. But they cannot equip more than one of the same perk. Which is like, what does that mean? Like, you can't equip 2 restocks? Why would I ever? What would I think that would do?
I just think that's a stupid piece of copy that they wrote. Of course, you can't double up on Ghost. Of course.
Another thing was though, did they mean you can't double up on the same class? I don't know, but I think you're right. I think you just can't pick it up twice. So they said if the same perk is found, be sure to ping a squad mate and share.
Also, it's okay, you found all of it. Basically, you got a specialist token then, right?
Essentially. I mean, well, not quite. You don't have all the perks in the gamut, but you got a lot of them. It's like a mini specialist.
Yeah.
So they're all unequipped on death, but they do not drop. They said, we want to further increase the value and rewards of looting during the mid-game. It's important for both pacing and movement in Battle Royale that there are always new rewards to be found for players who rotate through locations for greater loot advantages. And our first step on this path is to bring single perks into loot. From our internal testing, this change has brought a wealth of new player stories, and we will continue to roll out additional perks in this manner as we review player feedback and data on how it improves the pacing and experience of Battle Royale. These lootable perks will launch first in Caldera and then to Rebirth Island at a later date.
Cool. Very cool. I mean, yeah, that's basically a summary of what we just talked about, right? There's nothing new. No new info in that one.
No, I didn't know it was coming to Rebirth, so that's kind of exciting. I think that'll be a nice little addition.
Yeah. I feel like, they have had the specialist, since they redid Rebirth, and then there's these key cards, and you go to Stronghold, and you can get all the different, whatever. You're stealing the perks from me, and then I don't get them, that whole situation. Was that also happening on Caldera, where there's specialists and key cards and stuff, or was this kind of the specialist token kind of exclusive to Rebirth for the last month or so before this update?
I think exclusive to Rebirth, because that was really the meat of Season 2 Reloaded, was the new Rebirth revamp. I don't know of many or any Easter eggs on Caldera at the moment. But again, we're not really seasoned there, so I could be wrong. But yeah, definitely now the perk system is in Caldera. You can check it out. You'll probably find one if you run a few games on that because they're out there.
Yeah, what I like about High Alert, and I've said this before, is that, so High Alert allows you to be it notifies you when someone's looking at you, which is nice. So it lets me know like just a little bit quicker that I'm going to be killed in the next couple of seconds. So I do like that perk a lot. It takes kind of like the surprise out of it.
Yeah, there's less like clenching and like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Screaming.
It's like, oh shit, someone's looking at me. I'm about to die. And then you die. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that was a fun perk to let me know.
Yeah, it's like advanced warning, But that said, we talked about changes to the existing contracts. Well, they also, this season 3, introduced a brand new contract, which is called Sabotage. And they said the new Sabotage contract will increase the risk reward of traveling across Caldera on wheels or in the air. So what it does is after picking up the Sabotage contract, an operator and their squad will be giving a vehicle target somewhere on the map. And you have to take out this vehicle within the time limit for a cash bonus, an increased contract level, and an armored truck deployment. The armored truck is similar to ones we've seen in modes like Armored Royale, touting increased health and a turret seat. But while powerful, the presence on the map will make your squad a large target, especially if an enemy team picks up a Sabotage contract.
Yeah, this one feels a little gimmicky to me. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this. This doesn't seem to like drive the game further. It just seems like something to keep you busy while the circles are closing down. I'm not really sure what I'm not that excited about this. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think in theory it's cool, but I think the issue is people don't run that many vehicles. Like if more people were in more vehicles, I think this would be cool because like the odds of you getting like a team in a fucking vehicle that you need to destroy would be pretty high. But at the same time, I think they're alerted to the fact that their vehicle is marked, which that's a bummer. But if everyone was in cars, kind of like the old school or like when Berthas were huge, I think this would be pretty dope because then you could go around like hunting a moving target.
Also, if we had the rocket launchers of past that had the lock-on ability and you could shoot, lock on to things. And also, if they had fucking airplanes back in the game, this would be a different story too.
Wow, exactly. So I feel like in theory it's good, but in practice, like with the state of the Warzone, it's not really that great. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of underwhelming. I'm not. It's not like a dumb thing. It just doesn't seem it doesn't excite the cowboy.
Yeah, I'm with you. But finally now, the real meat that affects us, the real reason so many of you hopefully tune in is to get the updates on the meta, on the state of weaponry. We're always tracking this, and you gotta understand here that the meta's been maybe not fully shaken up like a martini, but definitely stirred a bit. They made pretty far-reaching changes specifically to snipers, but before we get into that, let's just talk specifically. So there's the 2 new weapons, the M1916 marksman rifle and the Nikita. I gotta say, the M1916, pretty dog shit. Nikita is all right.
It's like the M1 Grand reincarnated.
Yeah. So that said,
But the Nikita is cool. I like the fire rate on the Nikita. I could see a Nikita loadout coming or a build out coming with that gun. I think it's got potential.
It does have the good fire rate. But yeah, as of now, and again, I haven't had I feel like the ones in the Warzone, the built ones aren't really that kitted out yet. So I'm getting like stock ones, but I'm with you. I think there's some potential there.
Potential. We'll see. But there's the bigger changes we're about to talk about are way more impactful than the little Nikita.
That's right. So first off the bat is the assault rifle alpha for Vanguard. Of course, can't make it simple. That's the fucking STG. They had some nerfs and buffs, kind of a mixture of it. So the Russian short 45 round mags had some damage decrease. The 50 round mag 7.62 had a bit of a buff. They removed the damage range penalty and the bullet velocity penalty. The precision barrel had its bullet velocity increased and the damage range increased. So like the STG got kind of a weird mix where people are regarding it as almost a buff. And I know we've had some players running back to the STG liking it.
Yeah, I've gotten to play with some ground loot STGs since the update, and the STG's always been a pretty solid weapon, but it definitely, some of the discussion amongst players that I had was that this could be like, it's up there again. All of a sudden, it's like super viable.
So next up was the Assault Rifle Bravo for Vanguard, which is the, I think the ITRA Burst, which I've probably fired that 5 times in the history of the game, and they increased the mag capacity for one of the guns. They kind of gave it a little buff by giving it more ammunition, but I don't think anyone's using any fucking 3-round burst guns anytime soon.
No, unless it's a Diamatti and it's your second on a Ghost class.
But next up is a gun I've certainly talked about. You've certainly talked about. I was sad to see, and that is my beloved Vargo 52. It got a slight nerf, but I was grateful to see the damage was not touched, but the recoil control for essentially all of the barrels was increased. Kind of minor, so the recoil control was decreased. So the recoil was upped from 2.5 to 4%, or fucking reverse of that. And then also the foregrip had a bit of a recoil nerf, and the Spetsnaz grip. I'm still, though, sticking with the Vargo, as the smoke clears from this weapons tuning update. I don't think they've nerfed it into the ground. I just think it's, we've talked about, like, it had 0 recoil before. Now it's got a little bit of recoil.
Yeah, I think that it seems to be happening is they've added a lot of recoil to like most of the longer range ARs. And obviously we're going to get into what they just kneecap the sniper class, obviously. So I think they're trying to like push more close up skirmishes and more close battles, I think, because I think it was kind of getting out of hand where like someone was 150 meters away and you could shred the shit out of them with, like, say the Vargo, say like the Bren, say obviously the cars and the Swisses. So they've done a lot, I think, to like push, interactions to be closer, and you can survive longer if you're further away from people. I think that's kind of what the back thought is here. So it doesn't surprise me that, yeah, they've increased the recoil on some of these more powerful ARs.
That's an interesting theory. I can see that, because it seems like that all the nerfs, other than a few, were really targeted at the longer range guns, because right alongside the Vargo nerf, we talked about what we had said was, the consensus, not consensus, but widely regarded as arguably the meta long range AR. And that was the XM4. And they gave that a very, very minor nerf. The minimum damage was decreased by 1 point, from 26 to 27. But they also increased the maximum damage range by 30, from 850 up to 880. So got a little bit of a finesse there. I still see that pretty widely used, but that's really it for the main updates on the ARs. The Volk, which I don't even know what that is. I thought that was a shotgun. That also got kind of tweaked there.
The Volk? The Volkswagen?
No, the Volk. I guess maybe it is. They just call it the Volk. Maybe it is.
How do they spell it? Is it VOLK?
Yeah, VOLK.
Oh,
it
it's
is
for
the
sure the
Volkswagen.
Yeah, it's a Volkswagen. Yeah.
So that had a buff there. The bullet velocity penalty was removed from one of the mags. Damage penalty removed from a bunch of the mags. The bullet velocity was increased for some of the barrels. So they gave that a little bit of a buff, which I'm always looking for that on ground loot.
Yeah, I love, if you find yourself a purple or golden Volkswagen off the rip, that's a great, it's great because it's a mid-range weapon that you can shred people at close range with. And it also kind of, it's a good mid-range weapon. It's like the Cooper or something like that, but they typically don't have longer scopes on them. So you can have those close-up skirmishes and not have an ADS penalty there.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's an AR, but I widely regard it when I find it like I have an SMG in my mind. Because it's so mobile and it moves well. It just uses AR ammo. So I think it's a nice gun. It's got a nice little niche or whatever. So like to see that. Maybe it's going to make, a higher pick rate. We talked about the Diamatti at the onset. There's no more Diamatti drops. Well, the head damage multiplier was decreased to 1.49 as well. So the Diamatti also got a nerf, and they made a specific note on this. They said it's technically Handgun Charlie, of course, has been truly a dominant secondary weapon due to its substantial headshot multiplier. The Diamatti was able to achieve primary weapon TTKs with little downside. We'll be closely monitoring the weapon's performance and make further adjustments if necessary.
Yeah, cool. I mean, where are you going to use the Diamatti now if you're not dropping with it? I think the gun becomes a little more obscure.
Yeah, I have it as like a secondary on some of my, ghost or tempered classes. I don't think I'll switch that because I'm usually always picking up a secondary, but I like that. I think it's fair. Like, it was a little too dominant, the fact that you could just go into a room and fucking destroy someone with this little, rapid fire pistol.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
And then on to the LMGs, which, the big daddy on the weapon meta from the beginning of Vanguard really has been the Bren. It's been touched 2 or 3 times, but has remained dominant. Well, they finally, I think, maybe have nerfed it out of the, tippy top meta, because that had its max damage range decreased by 2 from 32, or down from 34 to 32. And the minimum damage was also decreased from 30 down to 28. The 40-round mag was nerfed. The Queen's Scepter was nerfed. The Queen's Royal was nerfed, and the Tight Grip was nerfed as well. They said the recoil control for the Tight Grip was greatly decreased. They said the Bren has overstayed its welcome as the go-to long-range choice. Its high damage profile paired with the ability to load it out to remove most recoil made for a nasty combination. By addressing some of the major outliers of the weapon, we're left with a strong choice for those that can control it effectively.
Yeah, the Bren I've been using, and I haven't taken it out of one of my classes just because I wanted to see how it was. And the recoil is more intense. It doesn't hit as hard. It's definitely been crippled a little bit, unfortunately. And that'll be coming out of my loadout. I'm now eyeing the KGM 40, I think, as a Bren replacement, possibly as my more longer range weapon. But I'm in a state of total denial, confusion, and just panic, frankly, as the car has been, and we're going to get into the snipers, but that is no longer viable, and I'm all over the place. But yeah, the Bren's not in anymore, that's for sure.
Yeah, which I'm glad. I mean, it's been a while since I guess maybe the Cold War AK, but they nerfed that for a while, but it's like that, you could have been running the Bren since literally day 1 of season 1, and you would have been, never had to change your fucking loadout. You would have been good to go. Now they're shaking it up. The Whitley also got tuned. That was given a slight buff in terms of the minimum damage, the ADS speed, and then 2 of the mags had some nice little changes there. But finally, before we get into the big changes that you've touched on, the game, changing the fucking state of the game, let's finally, though, they did make some SMG changes here, which I thought was welcome because I feel like the SMG space was getting a little stale. So let me pull it. Where the fuck are they? So in terms of the SMGs, we had the Armaguerra, which it was nerfed slightly. The 72-round mag attachment, 8mm, had its fire rate decreased by 5%, but it does now increase damage by 5%. The Imerito 180mm short barrel also had a little buff. Its bullet velocity penalty was decreased. Its visual recoil penalty was decreased, and its visual recoil overall. So the Armaguerra got a little bit of a buff there, it seems like.
Oh, the old Armaguerra. I like that weapon. That's one that if I find it on the ground, I will definitely hang on to it, especially if you get yourself a blue or purple or gold one. I like the Armaguerra.
But in terms of the top tier SMG meta, they did make changes there. First up is the MP40. The VDD 189 short barrel was nerfed. The minimum damage was decreased from 24 down to 23, and the upper and lower torso damage multiplier was also decreased. So the MP40 getting a little bit of a baby nerf, and the Owen gun as well. The 33 round mag, 7.62 attachment, had its neck damage multiplier decreased. The 7.62 72 round mag had its head damage multiplier and neck damage multiplier both decreased, and the Hawkinson 142 rapid barrel had its fire rate decreased by 3%. So the Owen gun and the MP40 got a little nerf, and the Type 100 got a little bit of a buff. The visual recoil was decreased, and it did, though. It's one of its barrels got nerfed. But where are you at with your state of SMG right now? I know you said you're all out of sorts, but have you found anything you're liking there?
I have been using the MP40 still. It's still a viable weapon. I'm not really sure now what, all that mumbo jumbo you just read. So what's the meta? Like, what is the best SMG right now? I've heard the Fennec is good. People are running also, like, I've seen Milano loadouts. It's kind of all over the place right now.
I think the Milano's definitely making a comeback, especially in terms of a sniper support class. I've heard, a lot of people singing the praises. I'm seeing streamers use it. I'm seeing streamers get fucking killed with it. But according to our old friends at Warzone Loadout, they ranked the short range meta. And interestingly enough, what they're claiming as now kind of in the meta here is the, let me pull it up here, is actually kind of the old stalwarts we've been talking about, which is the Owen gun, they believe is still meta. But also this one we just talked about, the Type 100, they ranked them as essentially equal in terms of the short range space, but they also said the Jack 12, the shotgun, pretty beastly, the Lapa, the Milano, and I'm with you. I think the MP40, it's got a minor buff or nerf, but it feels damn good. So yeah, it's the Type 100 and the Owen gun is what the Warzone Loadout is saying. That's the meta.
I might have to try that Type 100 this week. I will go out of my way to use the Type 100 ground loot. I always have success with that weapon, and maybe it's time for me to build that Type 100 class.
Well, I gotta say there, Cowboy, speaking of the Type 100, I think it was the course of my solo round. I happened to pick one up that was kitted out pretty well, blueprint. And it was kind of like a love at first sight moment. Like, our lips touched and it was like, I felt the bolt of lightning jolt through my body. But then I was a little scared.
Then what happened though? What happened with your body after that?
Well, then I got a little scared and I was like, well, do I even have this leveled up at all? It's a Vanguard gun. There's so many fucking attachments. Is it worth it? And fortunately enough, I went into my, my old fucking blueprints little hunter, and I have a blueprint for it. Let me see if I can find it. And I have a blueprint for it, and it's actually called the Earthly Tribe. So you might have it. I think it was from a battle pass prior. And for me, when I build an SMG, I usually prioritize ADS, like that's what I go for. And fucking as, serendipitous as it can be, this Earthly Tribe has a lot. It's pretty much all attachments that either increase the ADS or increase the damage. So I'm officially on the Type 100 train for my SMG. I got that alongside the Vargo. It's fucking strong. It feels good. It's got a slower fire rate, but it packs a wallop.
All right, I will have to check that out. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to pair that with this week. But maybe we should talk about the snipers next, and then we can have that discussion.
We can. We will talk about the snipers. We'll finally say, though, I've heard the Cooper still damn good. I know from the ground loot one. Still feels great, so I think you're solid there. But yes, the main earth-shattering changes, which I think people kind of knew this was coming. I don't know. But they made massive changes across the board to snipers. And essentially what happened is, previously I think all of the sniper classes, except maybe the fucking Dragunov, which I don't even know why that gun's in the game. But if you hit someone in a headshot with one of these guns, it was an instant down. As the Cowboy has made his bread and butter is using that Kar 98, hitting those headshots. Like, why would you use an HDR or an AX50 when you could have this mobile, versatile, quick, much faster car? There was no real balancing there. Well, they fucking certainly made some balance here. And essentially what happened is Now only a select number of snipers will be an instant down outside of what they're calling their maximum damage range. And those snipers...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it definitely blindsided me. I didn't think that this was going to happen. This is like what Iron Trials was, like you couldn't down somebody if it was past, like a certain minimum distance threshold. And now all of a sudden I couldn't use the car in Iron Trials because it just wasn't viable. Like if it's not a one shot down, like why would I run that gun? And now they've applied that to everything and it's totally blindsided me and I'm scared and alone.
He's scared and alone. He doesn't know where to run to. Before I talk about the specifics, what they said is the adoption of 150 health in Battle Royale resulted in a huge boon to the sniper category. Because while all other weapons required an additional shot or two, snipers remained as they did previously. The long-standing, quote, one-shot rule unfortunately diluted the sniper class into one important metric, speed to click heads, aka you find the sniper that's the fastest, you stick with that. As mentioned above, snipers may now use damage ranges as a defining characteristic of their one-shot potential. This not only brings more identity to each weapon, but means attachments that provide the lighter and quicker sniper rifles the damage range stat, that's going to increase their ability to one-shot at increased distances. So our ultimate goal is to enable a wider range of viable playstyles and really push the potential of each weapon. Keep an eye out as we expect further adjustments to sniper rifles as we hone in on the best all-around experiences. So as they said, now you're going to have to take a look at the maximum damage range for the guns. And you can make a gun, let's say Kar 98 that, it only has one shot damage at this range. And let's say you add another barrel or whatever the attachment to extend that range, you're giving yourself a little bit more of a leeway to have that. But in terms of the snipers, that they're going to fucking headshot at any range. It don't matter the maximum damage range. Like, you want the hard-hitting, single-shot fucking Bradley Cooper in that weird-ass movie. You need to go with the HDR, the Sniper Rifle Charlie for Modern Warfare, which, of course, I just closed the fucking tab that had the fucking list of that. So bear with me for 1 second while I find the goddamn title of that gun.
Let's settle down.
Where is it? Okay, Sniper Rifle Charlie for Vanguard is the Type 99. So that has that infinite range there for single shot headshots. And what else here?
The ZRG 20 millimeter.
The ZRG, the 3-line rifle, and the AX50, which I don't know. I know you joined a little late, but back in the day on Verdansk, like when the Warzone was in the early eras, if you sniped, you were running either the HDR or the AX50, and it's kind of like getting a little bit of a flashback vibe here.
Yeah, I was watching Dr. Disrespect drop into Season 3 this week, and he had kitted out his AX50, and it was like a nostalgia moment for him. So I've actually built out my AX50. I need to double check and make sure that I have the right build, but I will definitely be playing around with that to keep the snipe alive.
So you're more of an AX, because it was kind of like two unique camps back then. It was like you were either an AX50 guy or an HDR guy. You're an AX50 guy?
I'm just going off of what my favorite streamer is doing, so I'm going to try what he does, honestly. I haven't had the time to try the HDR yet.
I was started as an AX50 guy, moved to HDR. I forget why, but I know a friend of the podcast, Scared of Clowns, been back on the HDR vibe, been loving it. So those are the snipers. They will one-shot at any range. On the flip side, the following snipers will only one-shot while inside of their maximum damage range. That is the Kar 98 Modern Warfare, the SPR, the Pellington, the Swiss, the Type 99, and the Vanguard Kar 98.
Wait, you just said that the Type 99 was the Charlie gun that...
Well, maybe my info is wrong. So,
frankly, if you're using the Type 99, you have bigger problems to worry about. Get yourself a better sniper.
Yeah, and whatever Sniper Rifle Charlie for Modern Warfare, that was the one that was included on the list. It was not a sniper rifle Charlie for Vanguard. My
Are
apologies.
you having fun with those titles and the names?
I fucking hate it so much.
Right
but that
on.
said, so yes, it seems like really the marksman rifles now, like across the board. You look at the list I just read off that has to be within the minimum damage range or maximum damage range. Those were the go-to snipers, like the Swiss, the Kar 98, or the SPR, or even the Pellington. I know had its time. So it's like now. I mean, first off, I got to ask you, the sniper aficionado, have you tested this out to see if it's still even viable, the car?
No, I've completely abandoned it. I don't think it's worth it. It crossed my mind. I was thinking, man, maybe I should just run it and then you like break somebody and then you finish them off. But no, that's not the fun. The whole thrill, as I've said, is when you hit a great headshot, it's like the best feeling in the game, and they've taken that away from us.
Well, it's still there. You're just not going to get it with the car. I mean, maybe you refine
I know,
that
it's just
joy of it.
harder. Yeah, I know. I just got to get used to that. I'm still not used to it.
Well, the other thing I think it's worth trying, because I'm still seeing them, is on Rebirth. I don't know how often you're going to be outside of that maximum damage range. And this is the other thing that kind of, I love this change. Like, first off, I got to say, I fucking love this change. I thought we've talked about, of all the metas, the sniper has grown the most stale. The Kar 98 since literally like season 1 of fucking Warzone for a year and a half, almost 2 years is it? It's been like the King Kong. Like, why haven't they shaken that space up? And I always thought that was weird. Like a gun like the HTR, that's a fucking hog. Like, you run those guns and they're bulky, but you feel like a real sniper. Like, you got to line up. You got to be like breathing all fucking quiet in your little ghillie suit, waiting for the right moment. Whereas, some hotshot quick scopers run around just as fucking good. Now they're restoring a little bit of balance there. But that said, the part that kind of pisses me off is like, I don't think it's well known what these maximum damage ranges are. And from what I've heard is like, when you look at the gun stats, it lists it in like a figure like 500, and they're like, that's inches. So then you have to like convert that to meters, because when you ping on the map, it shows in meters. And it's like, it'd be nice if we had like a little chart, like, okay, the Kar 98 has to be within 300 meters, or you know what I mean? And it's really fucking messy right now. So I think that's
I'm surprised there isn't a chart like that. Like True Game Data hasn't put something like that out yet.
I think they're like literally still calculating it. I know in this first drop, they were trying to make sense of it. So I've been seeing conflicting numbers. Maybe it's out there. If it's nice and neat and tidy, please tweet it at us. We will retweet it. All I've seen though so far is just a side-by-side of like which guns one shot any distance and which have to be within the damage range.
Gotcha.
But finally, there's a third class of snipers with these changes, which is kind of hilarious. Is now they've nerfed. So there's now a set of 3 snipers that will not one-shot at any distance. So you can fucking shoot someone square in the head and it won't give you a down. And that is the Rytech, which is a Modern Warfare sniper rifle. Charlie, which is the M82. And finally, some other fucking sniper is not going to be good. All right? I can't keep doing this. I can't. Sniper rifle alpha from fucking Modern Warfare. So that's the state of the meta. I asked you, though, where you're at. You said the KGM40 and maybe an SMG, but you're not sure where else you're going?
Right now, I've been actually running the AX50 with my Cooper, my mid-range Cooper. But I think after this, I'm going to go build a Type 100 loadout that I pair with a longer range Cooper. I think that's what I'm going to I maybe substitute the longer range Cooper for the KGM40. I think that's what I'm going to try to do.
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful time in the Warzone when you don't have a definitive go-to weapon. When you got these shaking up, when you got an HDR or an AX50 making its way back into the Warzone. That said, I think the Dragunov might be on one of those snipers that got nerfed, which is just hilarious. That gun cannot catch a fucking break. I don't know why it's in the game.
That gun
just to
sucks.
be the butt of our jokes. But I was waiting for its time to come, but that time has not come yet. The time to wrap this episode, though, has. So that is going to do it for us this week on the Warzone Amateur Hour podcast. As you heard, a lot of data, a lot of numbers, a lot of fucking floating through the ether here as season 3 dropped. So much changes But when that happens, we want to hear from you all. What are you running? What's going on? We got so much on the agenda we weren't even able to get to, so get ready for another jam-packed episode next week. Before we sign off, any final thoughts there, Cowboy?
No, yeah, I mean, so much. If we could really do 2 episodes a week for these season update shows, they're just so massive. But no, it's get in there and play. It's a really fun time, and we have some insane shit on the horizon that I am very excited about, and honestly still a little confused about. But hopefully, we'll have a little more clarity on that next week.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm sure you've heard the tidbits being released about Operation Monarch. We'll be diving into that next week as we prepare for it to go live. But that is going to do it for us. So until next week.
Good luck in the gulag.
We also didn't talk about the new gulag, but I thought it was pretty cool, and I think I have 100% success rate.
Good for you.